If you've taken a walk through Athens, chances are you may have heard of a fire alarm. There's been an increase in these alarms over the last couple of months, and the Post, Ohio University's independent student-run newspaper, caught into it. Assistant news editor Donovan Hunt is here to talk about his story on effect these alarms have on the Athens Fire Department. So for the Athens Fire Department, is there a limit to, how many firefighters can be on duty at one time?
There's not. So when I was talking with Chief Reimer on this report, Chief of the Athens Fire Department, he shared with me that their staffing has remained the same since the 70s. And the limit has not been necessarily that there's a law. It's been more that there have been tax cuts that have been imposed.
Okay. And since 1966, OU enrollment has drastically increased, and the amount of fire runs have increased as well. Mm-hmm. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so one of the things we looked at also was the last 2 weeks, or the first 2 weeks of classes and the fire runs that they did there. And what we found was the majority of the fire runs, slight majority, were to Ohio University buildings. And of those, the vast majority of those were to dormitories. So we're seeing a lot of Ohio University fire runs, and just increasing the student population will increase the amount of fire alarms that get tripped because of the amount of students that make mistakes, whether that be burning popcorn, setting a diffuser near your fire alarm. So once you have that low staffing, it can kind of put a stress, is what Chief Reimer shared with me.
Mm-hmm. Now, in your story, actually, you mentioned a fire fee, mm-hmm. right? What is a fire fee?
Yeah, so there's a fire fee. It's an effort being pushed out by the Undergraduate Student Senate. Dan Gordillo is the main contributor towards that. And his plan is to give a $50 fire fee. It goes to all students, similar to the student legal fee. You can opt out if you want. It goes at the beginning of the semester, and proceeds to that will go towards fire staffing and fire education.
So you can opt. How do you opt out though? Like, do you just sign something?
It's done through your student center. It's the exact same way it's done with your legal insurance or through the legal fee that I mentioned earlier.
Okay. And now, why is this so important? Why are they putting this and implementing this for this fire fee?
Yeah. So with the tax cuts, it's kind of the only thing they've had to increase this, is what my understanding is from Chief Reimer. Now, the important thing to note is it won't make an immediate impact on the staffing. They're not sure exactly if it will if it will continue semester after semester, since students can opt out. So if they hire someone one semester and then 50% more students opt out the next semester, they'll have to lay that person off. So it might take a while to get through that.
Wow, that's incredible. Thank you so much for that, Donovan.
Yep, thank you.
If you want to read the full story from Donovan, go to thepostathens.com and take a look under the news section. Homecoming at Ohio University drove hundreds of alum into Athens and onto Court Street last weekend. But younger audiences were drawn to the Uptown Fun too. With Halloween on the horizon, one of the Athens Police Department's top priorities is safety, especially with underage drinking. News reporter Kendall Wright from the Post, Ohio University's independent student-run newspaper, spoke with APD about their approach. Thanks for being here, Kendall.
Thank you.
Yeah, so first question. I'm a bit curious, what sparked this story for you?
Yeah, so if you've been uptown on a weekend night, you've probably seen there have been a lot more cops than in the past. And so with this, people are wondering, why are so many cops coming in and out of the bars? Why are they doing so many bar checks, kicking people out? And there's actually a new chief in town, Nick Magruder. So I wanted to find out from the past, working with Pyle, what the differences were between what Pyle's done and then what Nick is going to do.
And finding out what you wanted to do, why is the Athens Police Department focusing on coming into these bars and focusing on people who are underage as well?
Yeah, so it's no surprise that there are people at a college campus underage drinking, and so they just want to make sure, with the last 2 classes of freshmen being so big, they want to keep a firm stance and make sure that these freshmen aren't going overboard. So they want to make sure they understand that they can't act a fool in bars, they can't go crazy, they can't cause fights, and so they're just monitoring, because when they do go into these bars, people are getting scared and leaving, and that creates more space for the people who are over the age, and then that gets rid of the underage people too.
So you say that sometimes these underage may be out here, the police doesn't want them acting a fool or anything out in the bars. What happens if they are out acting a fool and they do get caught?
Yeah, so basically, actually, about 95% of fights or assaults or issues that come from these weekend nights uptown are from underage people under 21. And so if the cops see kids who are underage, who might be underage, they like to approach them, either give them a warning or cite them, because then this can reduce the risk of these issues being caused. And also too, if these issues are being caused, the cops just will interact with them and then decide to charge them.
Well, obviously this is such an important issue because Ohio University here, we have so many students, freshmen, sophomores, and then obviously upperclassmen. But again, Halloween weekend, I mean, that attracts such a large crowd from previous what we've seen with more enforcement of COVID. You know, things are changing now. We might be seeing a larger crowd, for instance, with less enforcement and restrictions on COVID.
Right.
What are the plans for moving forward for that?
Yeah, so Athens PD is just going to treat it like any other big weekend. They're going to bring in extra staff from around the Columbus area, other people from in-state, just so they have a lot more on hand. Athens Police Department always works with OUPD, the Sheriff's Office, to make sure the city of Athens is under control. And so with Halloween, there's going to be the big block party, lots of stuff will be going on, and they're just going to monitor as usual, make sure everything's good, and yeah.
All right, well, I mean, hopefully everyone is safe out there and everything goes accordingly. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. If you want to read Kendall's full story, go to the postathens.com and take a look under the news section. Dylan?
Two mothers are fundraising money for the playgrounds over at Alexander Elementary School so their children can play. The goal is to make the playground more inclusive and accessible. News reporter Harshita Singhania from the Post, Ohio University's independent student-run newspaper, joins us to tell us more about the project. Thanks for being here. Can you first just tell us, why did this project start for the playground?
Lisa Vigal and Anna Corpi are two mothers and their children use wheelchairs and have sensory processing challenges. They noticed a widening gap between able-bodied children and children with disabilities, and that is when they decided to approach Vice Principal Richard Miskeel in 2021 to get the project started, to have more inclusive play structures, not just for physical disabilities, but for invisible disabilities as well.
Yeah, so can you tell us about the four major phases that are in this project?
There are four main phases. They're PLAY, play. Phase P, the phase that they're currently in and fundraising for, involves getting rid of the existing structure and replacing it with a more inclusive structure in Playground Area 1. And Phase L looks at the same thing but over at Playground Area 2. And Phase Y will replace all of the mulch. Mulch is ADA compliant but poses a lot of challenges for wheelchair and crutch users, and that will be replaced with poured-in-place rubber. And finally, Phase Y looks at Playground Area 3, which is used by children from pre-K and kindergarten, and that are all of the four phases.
Yeah, so what kind of impact is this going to have on the community?
Both Corpi and Vigal emphasized and stressed the importance of learning from peers and learning during playtime. So this will not only reduce the gap between able-bodied and disabled children, but also enable them to foster better relationships and connections.
Yeah, and if people want to donate to the project, where can they do that?
They also emphasize on the importance of every dollar counting, and they're just $40,000 shy of their goal that they need to meet by Thanksgiving. They can visit, interested people can visit www.alexanderinclusive.org/donate, and they have more information on the phases and photos and about anything you'd want to find out about the playground.
Yeah, again, thank you so much for being here and telling us a little bit more. If you want to read her full story, go to thepostathens.com and you can take a look under the news section.
October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and according to the Domestic Violence Hotline, 20 million people are affected each year. Culture reporter Kaylin Pickett from The Post, Ohio University's independent student-run newspaper, is here with more about her article on local resources. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So how has the city of Athens given support to the community?
So the biggest resource we have here in Athens is My Sister's Place, which is a local shelter that is in the Hocking and Athens area. And it is a shelter and offers multiple resources for any domestic violence survivors, including legal resources and medical resources, as well as counseling. And they also offer a pet shelter for any survivors to host their animals called My Sister's Paws.
Okay. And how has Ohio University provided support for its students?
So our biggest resource here on campus is the Survivor Advocacy Program, and that is a just for the students here, and it offers legal, medical, and counseling services as well. You can access them through their website, where you can schedule an appointment. You can do walk-in appointments, or you can call their hotline if it is an emergency. And we also have our Women's Center, which is just another great resource for anyone.
And as we're nearing the end of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, why is it so important to be talking about this right now?
It's really just to bring attention to this topic. There are people who go through it that are just not comfortable talking about it, and it's not something people will admit to experiencing very often. So it's important just to let them know that they're not alone out there and that they have resources if they need them, and to just reach out if they need help.
Okay. And then if a person wants to find more information or wants to reach out to a supporting organization, where should they go look?
All three places that I listed, they have websites that you can go to. There's the Domestic Violence Hotline to find resources, and the best way is just to ask for help, and there's obviously you can call the police if it's in a real emergency.
Okay. Thank you, Kaylin. If you want to go read Kaylin's full story, go to thepost.athens.com and look under the Human Interest section.
Buskers are musicians who perform on the street, typically for money. And Athens is no stranger to the vibrancy of these street musicians. The Post, Ohio University's independent student-run newspaper, took to Court Street to speak with these performers about their experiences and its musical benefits. Post reporter Jackson McCoy joins us to talk us through busking in Athens. Thanks for being here. And the first thing I'll ask you, Jackson, is where did you get this story idea from?
So yeah, the editors actually pitched it. I picked it up because I thought it would be a great way to cover the local Athens music scene. I'm a huge music fan, obviously. And it started as a normal culture story and got bumped up to projects, which basically allowed me to give a more in-depth coverage of the actual music scene in Athens, especially busking and street performing.
Yeah, so who were some of the people that you met when you went out, and what did they share with you?
Yeah, so I met Logan Reynolds, who is a philosophy graduate student and TA here at Ohio University. He was able to share with me his performing style, like how his experience has been, what he aspires to do. He's very inspired by Johnny Cash, you know, a lot of country musicians and stuff. That's what he plays primarily. I was also able to meet Chris Harmson, who is a junior at Ohio University studying music. He performs a lot of saxophone, like improvised pieces to popular songs. That's a big hit on Court Street. And I also interviewed Riley Bapst. He was formerly a busker at Ohio University. He is a junior too. And now he releases music on Spotify. He released an EP this year, and it was really interesting to get a perspective of someone who started busking and has moved on to maybe different musician goals.
Yeah, so what are some of the other benefits that the buskers told you about?
Yeah, they actually like kind of walked me through like how busking benefits the community. It adds to like the ambiance of Court Street. It allows a more vibrant music scene in Athens to exist. You're allowed to see you're allowed to hear more music as you're walking down Court Street on a Friday, Saturday night. It really just gives them more cultured experience here.
Yeah, so if someone came up to you and asked that they wanted to start busking right now, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I would just say go out and do it. Based off what everyone that I interviewed said that was a busker or is currently, just said, you know, go out, start performing, do your thing. You know, it doesn't really matter what level of experience you have as long as you're practicing and you're honing your craft.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us here tonight.
Local organizations here in Athens County often plans community meals as a way to help those who struggle with food instability. The Post, Ohio University's independent student-run newspaper, spoke with some of those resources and discovered how they've been able to make these public meals possible. Post reporter Disha Hawk joins us to tell us all about these community resources. Thanks for being here, Disha. First question, why is the Athens community giving out these meals? Is there some type of statistic or something you have about it?
So basically, Athens deals with a lot of food instability. It's the second poorest county in the state right now. And because of the high student population in Athens, there tends to be a lot of issues with students having stable incomes, which leads them to struggle with having like their 3 meals a day.
Okay, and well, which organizations are providing these meals, and like what are their reasons for doing so?
So Cat's Cupboard, is a part of Ohio University. They have an office on the top floor of Baker University Center where they have so many resources for people that might be struggling with food insecurity. They have a list on OU's website on daily meals that are available every week. I interviewed and worked with UCM on North College Street in the Episcopal Church of the Good Shepherd. They offer weekly and monthly meals.
That's awesome. Now you say they offer weekly and monthly meals, correct? Okay, well how long have these communities or these organizations started giving out these meals, community meals?
So UCM actually just celebrated their 30-year anniversary of giving meals out, and the Episcopal Church has been doing it for around 30 years as well. They recently had to downsize from once a week to once a month because of changes with the COVID pandemic. That's what a lot of these organizations are dealing with, is having to shift and adjust their resources after the pandemic.
Do you have any numbers for us about how that shifted, or is there anything like outlook, or as far as what you've observed doing this story, observed that's showing like how this has impacted Athens?
Yeah, so a lot of the organizations, a big part of their meals was that it offered a social aspect, so people that might be lacking a community or support had a place to come enjoy a hot meal and just be around other people and socialize and connect. Because of COVID, that aspect obviously was a lot harder to achieve. So there were pickup meals available, but as one of my sources said, like that fills the heart and not, or that fills the tummy but not the heart. And so a lot of them are just working on getting the word out and making sure that people are aware that there's places for them to, come and eat and enjoy others' company.
How do they make people be aware of what they're giving out? I mean, do they put up posters, flyers around? How do they get people to know that they're available and here?
Yeah, so there's flyers up in front of all of the buildings that I think are pretty noticeable. If you're walking on campus, you definitely see them. There's also some social media campaigning, and then also Ohio University, I think, does a good job of broadcasting these sources on their website.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that, Disha. Now, if you want to read Disha's full story, go to thepostathens.com and take a look under the human interest section.
The former Athens Lunatic Asylum, commonly called the Ridges, will be undergoing major renovations come 2025. Suzanne Piper, a reporter for the Post, Ohio University's independent student-run newspaper, recently reported on the upcoming construction and has more on what's to come on the over 150-year-old building. Thank you for joining us, Suzanne. How are you doing?
Thanks.
So can you tell us a little bit about this project, Suzanne?
Yeah, so it's a spinoff of the 2015 framework plan, and it's just putting in the actions, and it's now calling the Ridges Development Strategy, and yeah, it's just to put the plans into action.
Fantastic. And where is this project currently, since construction won't begin until 2025?
Yeah, so we're in a preparation phase, so we're doing land appraisals, doing condominium declarations, getting the land and buildings surveyed. Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the purpose of these developments of the Ridges?
It's to keep the historic of the historic feel of the Ridges.
Yeah, great. And what about the budget?
So we've already spent about $35 million, but it'll just be, I think, about $200 million.
Awesome. And when are we expecting this project to wrap up?
Around 2025. Well, the 2025 will be when the construction will start beginning. So.
And there was a new association founded out of these developments. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the New Community Authority, and it's a group that community members all around, for example, Christine Nisley from the president of the city council. So she is on that, and they're helping with doing tax exempts and just getting the plan into order.
Fantastic. Yeah. And can you tell me a little bit more about some of like the exact progresses we're going to see? What are the newest developments?
So we're going to see business opportunities, housing, senior housing, affordable housing, all sorts of things like that, yeah.
And what can students look forward to?
There'll be housing for students, and yeah, mostly just that, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Piper. Suzanne Piper. We appreciate you being here. If you want the full story, the article on the renovations coming to the Ridges, head to thepostathens.com.